Welcome to this week's episode of the People Success Circle podcast. The topic this week is near and dear to my heart because it's a combination of marketing and human resources. It takes the two and really says, how do we show up as an employer to attract not only customers, but employees? So I'm so excited to welcome my guest, Leslie Owen, to the podcast. Leslie is an expert marketer and an expert website developer. So welcome, Leslie.
Hello. Thank you so much, Mindy. It is just such an honor to be a part of your podcast and talking about something as important as company branding and attracting the right employees to your brand, but through your website. And there's so much that you can do on there.
Right, right. And so when I think about this topic, a stat comes to mind, and it is that within 2 minutes of someone being invited to interview for a company, they are pulling out their phone and they are researching, who is this company? What can I find out? Within 2 minutes. And so, as you know, like in 2 minutes, we got to capture their attention. And the main thing that's going to come up is the company website as well as the company LinkedIn page. And so it was just natural that I had you on here to talk about this because it's just such an important thing when we are building our online presence because we just, as company owners, we have to be ready in that 2 minutes to actually get someone interested in working here.
And another statistic that I think can complement that 2 minutes, and then 88% of people who go on a website and have a bad experience will never return to that website. So if you couple, a company that is struggling with their brand or doesn't have a presence, maybe they have a website that they haven't touched in the last 2, 3 years. They have a potential employee that goes onto that
Yes.
website, can't find anything, it's too slow to load, maybe the about page is very outdated. They're not gonna return, right? They're gonna be like, "You know what? This really probably isn't the company for me."
Yeah. Yeah, totally, totally. When you are building a website at Movement Maker, I'd love to hear you tell us about how you balance attracting a customer to the website and building employer brand.
That's a great question. One of the things that we will focus on first and foremost is understanding those audiences. And so for instance,
Mhm.
we are working with a very large construction company here in Texas. They have multiple audiences that they're actually trying to attract. So not
Yeah.
only do they have potential clients that they want to build for, they have subcontractors that they want to submit, bids to help them with those builds. And then they
Yeah.
also have a lot of people that want to join the company because of their reputation. And
Yeah.
so with that, I always love to tell our clients, I loved reading the books, the choose your own adventure books when I was
Yeah, me
growing
too.
up
Me too.
because there was just so much autonomy and you got to kind of pick where you wanted to go. You can utilize your website in the very same way. And so maybe there is a very clear roadmap of, hey, this is for the potential customer. And then if you're interested in joining our team, this is for you. So
Mm,
instead of a potential employee having to dig and look through a very large navigation menu and try to figure out where I'm supposed to go to get information on careers, you can
yeah.
make this a lot more visible by doing something like, I want to hire this company to do this for me, or I want to be a part of this company. Now, of course, there's nuance to that and the way that we would design it, but I highly recommend making it very clear of the audiences that you want to attract by giving them some sort of choose your own adventure model.
Yeah, I love that. And I kind of find joy in looking at the career section on any
Yes.
website. Doesn't matter if I'm like looking at Lululemon or if I'm looking for a new plumber. Just my eye goes to what does this say about careers? And sometimes it's really hard to find. It's
Good.
like really tiny print at the bottom, or it's not there at all, or it's embedded in the contact page, or it's embedded in the about page, but it's just not clear for somebody who does want to look into working for that company. And it just feels like such a miss.
Oh, exactly. A lot of times you're seeing it in the footer, and in our world, we call a footer kind of a junk drawer. because every house has a junk drawer and you kinda need
Yes.
it. Like, you need a
Yeah.
place to put all of the odds and ends around your home into one place, and you know if you look in it, you'll find what you're looking for. Kind of
Yeah.
the same thing with a website. Every website needs a footer. Every website just needs a place where everything is located, but that can't be the only place for a
Right.
careers page to be. And so, yes, we have had clients that utilize the footer for careers and then never had it in the top navigation. And as soon as we added it to the top navigation, and our
Mm.
recommendation is under the About Us as a
Yeah.
submenu,
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, sometimes they get more people submitting resumes and submitting forms to be considered to be a part of the organization, even more so than their customer leads sometimes. So that's when you've really hit it, when you have a pipeline of potential employees instead of having to be desperate and like hoping that people will reach out to you. You'd love to have a pipeline that you're going to whenever you need it.
Yeah, absolutely. And a best practice that I've done in human resources is even if I don't have an active role open, I have something that says, don't see a job that interests you, submit your resume to us anyway,
Mhm.
because we will then look at those for future. And we in HR, we call that file for future, right?
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
we just say, even if you don't see anywhere, any job right now, we still would love to hear about you. Apply, like fill out your information. And that has really worked for us throughout the years in different
Yes.
companies that I've worked for. Just giving people the chance to share their information is just proactive recruiting as well.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. So, in your experience, what are some of the key elements that companies should include on their websites to
Mhm.
showcase culture, values, and really just the team environment?
That's a great question. Most importantly, you want your website to feel like a human being. You want your website to be less of a digital brochure, which is just a whole bunch of information. And sometimes we get caught up in the word count. We have to really communicate our expertise and that we deserve, to be considered. And so let's just go on and on and on about us. That's not how people have conversations. In fact, if we were in a conversation with someone that just talked about themselves, we'd be ready to leave. We'd be looking at the door and rolling our eyes and being like, when can I get out of this conversation? Websites can function as a living, breathing platform that can connect one human to another. That's how it should be created. I tell people all the time that your website should be the heart of your marketing strategy. It should feel just like a heart pumps energy into all of our different limbs, into our brain. Your website should be pumping energy into all of the platforms that are connected to the website, that are speaking back to the website. And so, even just saying that to you, I'm sure you get this different feel that I'm experiencing someone instead of something. And when a company can create a someone experience when an possible employee is on the website, then you have that person really leaning in and wanting to learn more. So obviously the homepage, we want to be communicating in a way that connects and cares, but that the second most viewed page on a website is the about us. And you love looking at the careers pages. I love looking at an about us.
Yeah, I will say that's up there. I like that one too. I'm way more interested in those 2 parts of the website than anything else.
And it's because this is where we get to see faces. But unfortunately, some companies choose to write paragraphs and paragraphs. And there's certainly a time and a place for history. We like creating a good timeline because that's some good storytelling. But I want to see faces. And so when we can see the faces of the founders of the company or the CEO or who are the directors, especially in these larger enterprise companies, people can get lost in these amount of faces. But if we have them and we have some type of story with it, giving a little bit of a bio. I love when people share some of their favorite things. Maybe it's a favorite quote from a book. Maybe it's what their hobbies are. I'm sure you have seen the about pages. Maybe this is more on the creative, agency side that do this, but they do like a funny picture and it's a GIF. So when you hover
Yes,
over it, it changes and maybe they're holding their dog. Um,
it's the
that just
best.
adds so much character and
Yes,
personality to an about us page that because you have to think the employee is thinking, do I want to work with these people?
absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
Can I see
Yes.
myself working with someone like this? Do I resonate with the
Yes.
founder or these directors? I mean, I'm sure on the job description it's saying who you're going to report to. Well, I'm going to go look to see who
Mhm.
that is.
Absolutely. I teach people to do that. I'm
Mhm.
like, not only look at the website to see if you can find them, look at the LinkedIn page to see if you can find them. Go to the bottom, look at their interests. I interviewed with someone who he and I were both super into the Chicago Cubs, but I wasn't living in Illinois anymore. So it was just like a natural entryway to talk and to add something to the conversation
Yes.
that was completely different than the job description.
Yes.
So I do think it's great to have that. And the last company I worked with, our career page was called Find Yourself Here. Like
I love that.
see where you can find yourself in this company. And it's really the truth. Like people are not looking for just a paycheck. They're not looking for just a job. They're looking for a culture that they can see themselves in. And
Mhm.
so when companies show pictures of employees and, one of the companies that I do HR consulting with, they just had a golf tournament this weekend and they invited all their suppliers to come too, and all the kids and all the families. And I was like, share it, put it on your website, put it in, share this stuff because then people really can see themselves there.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
they're a manufacturing company and they have a lot on their website about like the parts that they make, which is super important and super cool. But people aren't gonna work there because of a pipe that they make. They're gonna work there because of the culture, and the culture's
Exactly.
great. I often say to companies, "You don't wanna be the best kept secret out there." You gotta tell people your employment story so that you're not hiding behind something that people are just like, "Oh my gosh, I totally see myself at that company."
Mhm, mhm. You know, that
Yeah.
I love that you brought up, like, a company picnic. We have another client that invested a lot of resources into a videographer to come, bring a drone. I mean, it was a very large company picnic, but, I mean, the footage was beautiful and
Mhm.
vibrant, and you could just tell that everyone there just wanted to be there. So, video showcasing culture like that outside of even the office, the fact that
Yeah.
people would want
Yeah.
to congregate outside the office and want to go to a company picnic and have fun.
Yeah.
I think that says a lot. The video is an opportunity to go beyond even just the pictures. Another video
Yeah.
that we recommend is a message from the CEO, a message from the founder, something that's direct to camera to and bonus points if you have one that is being addressed to your potential customer and then another for your employees. In fact, one of the CEOs that we're working with started out at his company 30 years ago as an intern and
Wow.
worked his way up to the CEO. So that story again right there, can
Yeah.
someone see themselves even if they're an intern? Like, man,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
possible for me too.
Mhm. Mhm. Have you ever worked with a company where their employer brand was totally missing from their website? And if so, like, how did you turn that around?
Yes. No, we had a large mental health group that we really just needed to elevate everything across the board. So the branding, we found out through a lot of research that they really should be marketing to millennial women and the branding on
Mm,
there, putting them more at a woman 65 plus. So it just was not resonating. The color choices were just not quite there. And so we really encourage them to invest in brand photography. And once we
yeah.
did a total logo brand redesign coupled with very intentional brand photography, now all of a sudden we actually got a look into the
Mm,
office, into their
yeah.
space. And the crazy thing is that their physical location had no actual parallel to the existing website. They looked nothing alike. And yet, when you walked into the physical location, it was so calming. They had waterfalls. There were so many
Wow.
beautiful plants. I mean, the waiting room was just so tranquil and the wait staff were so friendly. You had no clue. No clue. They did the very standard staff headshots and then a group photo of the staff. There was no
Interesting.
visual representation of what it's like as a customer or even as an
Mhm.
employee to be in that environment. And so when we did that and added a careers page under About Us, everything changed. It used to be where they're like, please post this on social media. At the time, we were supporting them with that. Please post this job on social media. Please, can you post it again? Please, we have no one applying. As soon as we turned that new website on, they really never had to post anymore, is because they just had a steady stream of people
Yes.
wanting, and these are all these LPCs wanting to be a part of this group practice. So you don't think, and I think you said it, we're so used to us. We're the best kept secret. We just think like, what's so great about us? And
Totally.
it's because you live it and you breathe it every day. But when you give people a look into what it's like, they don't know anything about that. All of that is new and novel for them. So make it a point, make the investment of capturing what it's like to be in an office or be in your environment and showcase it to the world.
Yeah, and even asking employees what their favorite thing is, because sometimes people, like, as bosses or owners, we don't necessarily know what resonates. Maybe it's a
Mhm.
flexible work schedule. Maybe it's the company picnic where they get to bring their family. Maybe it's that the company sponsors their kids' band concert. Who knows what it is, but really just being in touch with what the employees love about working there can really, really help. I consult another company, and when I was getting to know them, I learned that 73% of people have been promoted within. And
Wow.
I said, people need to know that. And they were like, oh, it's just how we do things. And it was like, people need to know it because people are looking for a place where they can learn and grow. It's like the
Mhm.
number one thing employees want is to be developed and grow. And so you're doing that organically without, like, it's not even coming to mind for you. That's something that people need to hear.
Yes.
And they have
Yeah.
low turnover because of it,
Oh.
and so yeah, and so just being able to say the thing that you may not realize is such a big deal, but it is a big deal to people you're
Mhm.
trying to
Mhm.
attract, for sure.
For sure.
Yeah, yeah. So I love that you mentioned, like, postings and blogs and things like that too. I know that your company specializes in websites. I also know that you have a lot of experience in marketing in general. How does a business take their employer branding from their website and make it consistent among
Mhm.
all the touch points they have with a potential employee?
Yeah, so this is where I'm sure you're seeing a shift in the landscape, because it used to be just posting consistently as a company on LinkedIn, the articles on your website is enough. And it's just really not anymore.
It's not.
I think every CEO also needs to be fully aware that they're also the CIO, the chief influential officer, meaning they are the face. They are the face of that entire company. And so my recommendation is, yes, have representation on LinkedIn and have a really solid company website. But more of that responsibility than ever is going to be on the owner and the leadership of the company. So much so that we're creating entire resource hubs on websites, which are no longer just articles. They are videos, they are podcasts, they are just a range of different types of content with people in leadership that can offer expertise and speak into something. So if you are a CEO and your company has put out a new job description for XYZ, then it's your job to be posting on every single platform, not just, hey, do you want a job? Do you want to be, our new director of whatever? It's your job to be the representation of what it's like to work for someone like you. What's the culture? Do you live out the mission, vision, and values? Do you talk about mission, vision, and values? And so
Mhm.
that's the big shift that a lot of owners are like, whoa, I didn't realize that when I started this company, I was also starting a media company, and that I would also need to step into this space as an influencer. I have a very good friend that has just been like, no, I can't. I'm rolling my eyes. It makes me cringe. I cannot be that person getting on stories on Instagram. I cannot.
Mhm.
We shifted that perspective and helped her see that this is about making sure that her business goes into this next generation under her leadership. Then there was, no, I can't afford to, like, not do this. And so I would recommend just any leader to just do it. get on the platforms, start talking about, and it doesn't even have to be just about life. That's why it's a personal brand. People want more than just one aspect of you. One aspect of you is the leader of this company. You are a multifaceted human being that plays multiple different roles, and we want to see that. And so many of the employees that we attract at Movement Maker love the fact that I am a high achieving working mom of 4 kids.
Yeah, of course. It's so impressive and it's relatable.
It's very relatable, and a lot of them are younger women that don't have children yet, but somewhere along
Mhm.
the line, they have this big question, "Can I do both?" And when they see me on my platforms and they see the other side of Leslie beyond the office, and they see it traveling with our children and my husband and I doing a weekly and alignment meeting and me doing some solo trips by myself and celebrating the wins of the business, there's this intrigue that if I'm a part of whatever Leslie is doing, then maybe I can learn how to
Mhm.
be a woman that is a working mom and maybe starts my own business one day. And so you do attract what you put out there. And so if you want employees that you have chemistry with, that you feel fit the culture, then you have to be sending the signal out there of what it is that you're looking for.
I really couldn't agree more. And I say this too, even to job seekers who are out there. Like, people want to know you. And if you want a job, you want more business for your company, you want to hire better people, people have to know you. And it's no longer that people just walk in a place for a paycheck. They want to connect with somebody. And we have the tools to do that better than ever through our website, through LinkedIn. We can do this better than we've ever been able to do it historically. And we just have to use them. And I think it's interesting because a company who only posts about the company and doesn't post through the leaders or even just the employees of the company, they're just missing out because people work for people.
Yes.
You know, I mean, people want to know the person they're interviewing with. They want to know the person that they could be reporting to and also the people that they're buying from.
Yes.
One of my companies that I work with said every time that one of their potential customers comes into their factory, they always hear the same thing. Wow, this is so impressive. And I said, they shouldn't have to visit here
Yeah.
to see that. They should be able to see that in your branding and your
Yes.
marketing? And so just really talking about it in a way that relates to people can just go so far with
Mhm.
attracting customers and employees. I hear the same thing too. People are hesitant. They're like, I don't like social media. I don't want to do that. And it's just really not an option anymore.
No, it's not.
It's not. Things have to stay updated, relevant, and relatable. And when people do that, then you walk into a room and people feel like they know you. People feel like they already know you. I've worked with some women business owners on their LinkedIn, and the thing they always say is everywhere I go now, people say, I saw you on LinkedIn. And I was like, yeah. I mean, because you're putting yourself out there and people know you, and people can't buy from you, work with you, nominate you, hire you,
Mhm.
all those things if they don't know you,
Yeah,
And I think
exactly.
that's just something that is missing out there.
Mhm.
So, Leslie, what advice do you have to businesses that don't think employer branding belongs on their website?
Well, just like we, just finished in that previous question, if you are an owner that believes that employer branding doesn't have a place on a website, then you will have a business that maybe spans into the next 2 to 3 years because you will be overlooked by this future workforce. And let's talk about this future workforce, right? Millennials are very much heading into this upper levels of leadership, right? We're holding more of these director, VP, CEO roles. And so who's coming up behind us are Gen Z. Gen Z are who are coming into the workforce. And I guarantee you that if your website causes you more shame and you are not proud of that thing and you haven't updated it in years and it's been an afterthought and it actually communicates to none of your other platforms because it's not integrated into your business, then you will simply not be considered. For the Gen Z, I mean, social proof is everything, everything. And so It's not even enough, Mindy, to have a really fancy, brand. They need to see the testimonials of other employees that love working there and talking about what a difference it's made in their lives. They want to see the proof that you're worth investing their time in because we're coming up in an Amazon generation where all we do is look at reviews in order to make purchases. We really don't trust employer brands anymore because they have to say
Mhm.
that about their
Mhm.
company. We
Yeah.
look at what are other people saying about this company. And if you have no one talking about you because you have no digital presence at all, you've not done anything with your website, you've sworn against doing anything on social. My hairdresser literally believes that social media is the devil, but is opening up a brand new location. And I kid you not, that man is on social. And I literally sent him a DM, which I don't know if he knows how to check, but I sent it to him and I said, "Has hell frozen over, Joseph?" Because every time I would sit in his chair, he'd be like, "No, it is awful. It's ruining our society." But even he knows that if this new location is going to be successful, he needs to be a face in representing it. So I would send a word of urgency and caution to business owners that are still relying on word of mouth marketing, traditional marketing, and believing that that's enough. It is simply not going to be enough anymore.
Mhm. Yeah, and if we don't have the employees, I always say people first, profit follows,
Mhm.
right? So if we lead with and we always lead with our customer focus in marketing, we miss that chance of attracting the best people to, in turn, service those customers, right? So we can have a great product, but if we don't have a great experience through the employees, then there's a huge disconnect. So if an employer is listening to this today and they think, gosh, I should probably pull up my website and see how I'm doing from an employer branding perspective, what things should they look at? And then on the flip side, what steps should they take to change it if they're not happy with what they see?
Yeah. So at Movement Maker, we use something called the Human Approach Method, and it's an acronym for it's HEART. And remember, we're all about your website should be the heart of your marketing strategy. So H stands for human centered. Does it feel like your website is a living, breathing platform? Is it a human speaking to another human being? And you're
Mm,
going to find that a lot in the content and the copywriting because you're going to use very empathetic language. You're going to use very client or employee focused language versus us, we. E is for empathy, right? So again, really stressing we need to be empathetic. We have to understand what it is that this employee is feeling, what they may be searching for a while for a place to find their home. Maybe their job search has been one full of disappointment. Addressing things like that can only
mhm,
create a very positive experience because that person feels very seen. Accessibility is incredibly important, meaning whether someone is visually impaired or hearing impaired, they can navigate your website with ease. And so to be an employer that attracts people of all abilities, you want your website to be able to be accessible to them. Then we're going to go into responsive is a lot of times people design websites for desktop and they forget about mobile. And then over 60% of people are looking at your website on a mobile device and it doesn't look the same. The links are not the same. Maybe you have a headshot of you, but now it's covered with text because you didn't think about the responsiveness on
yeah.
mobile.
I see that so often, and I
Mhm.
think, it is a big miss, so I'm
It
glad you
is.
pointed that out because I
Yes.
think that I didn't know the stat of 60% use
Upwards.
their
Yep.
mobile, but I can see it.
Oh,
I could
yeah.
totally see it.
And then the
Yeah.
final one is trustworthy. This is where we're going back to things like testimonials. We see that people trust your brand. Something else, I don't know if you've ever been on a URL, Mindy, and right next to it in parentheses, it says not secure. Uh,
Oh, yes.
That's a really big, and you may not think it's a, oh, who cares? No, that's kind of sharing and saying something about your brand that your data may not be safe with us. And so, if the first thing that a potential employee or a customer, when they're logging on to your URL and they see that, especially if you're taking payment on a website, I mean, that is something that you really want to make sure you address. And so that's why trustworthiness is a big part of it. So it's heart, HEART. That's what I would have someone focus on. And then the first steps, we actually have an audit tool on our website, movementmaker.pro. So you can audit your own website in under 2 minutes and then get some suggestions and some free downloads on where to start. And we always say start with your homepage. Don't feel overwhelmed. If you have a 6+ page website and you're like, oh my good, start with the homepage because it's the most visited page on your website. And we have material to help you with that there too.
I love that. And I will absolutely link that in our show notes for people because I think that this is such an important topic that people just don't think about. They think about communicating with employees through job ads, but
Mhm.
like we're communicating with employees and future employees anytime someone
Yes.
touches our website.
Yes.
Anytime, it could be that they're referring someone else to it, but anytime someone touches our website, we have the potential to elevate our employer brand. So, Leslie, thank you so much for sharing your expertise with my listeners. This is such a great topic for people to assess how they're doing and do just a check to see how their company is showing up from an employer brand perspective. So, thank you so much.
Thank you, Mindy, for having me. And yes, it is just like you said, around every corner, no matter what you're doing, you're representing that brand. And so, one of the huge platforms for you to be able to do this well is a website. But remember, I mean, especially as a leader, you're representing it no matter what you're doing and where you go, you get to live it.
Yes, absolutely. I'd like to thank you for listening to this week's episode of the People Success Circle podcast. If this resonated with you, please leave a review or share it with a coworker or friend. With that, go out, audit your website, and we'll see you next week.